story is from the person behind the mushrooms. Please welcome to Field Notes, Julia Coffey.
In 2010, I decided I wanted to work for myself and in agriculture. I had experience growing mushrooms, herbs, flowers, other produce, and while I felt more confident with crops from the plant kingdom, everybody was doing that here already. And so I started growing mushrooms in a closet in my basement because they were underrepresented in the Valley food system. In the beginning, I grew about 30 pounds a week, and now Mycoterra Farm is the largest mushroom farm in Massachusetts, and that means things are a lot bigger and more expensive. At the heart of our operation is a large commercial autoclave. We use this to sterilize the sawdust medium that we grow our mushrooms on. It is essentially a 5-foot diameter, 33-foot long cylindrical pressure cooker that allows us to achieve the temperatures we need to kill the other microbes that would compete with the species that we're trying to grow. This autoclave has helped us achieve the scale that we have. However, over the past few years, I've watched the inevitable process of oxidation you get with steam and steel over time. That's right, it's getting rusty, and I was in search of a replacement. But they simply don't make them like they used to. While our autoclave is great for cooking sawdust, the commercial food processing technologies have come a long way since early processed steam. And when the factory that made our autoclave burned down, they never rebuilt. And so there's few and far between. Luckily, last summer, a friend of mine reached out. He happened to have an autoclave in a warehouse that they were looking to get rid of. And so negotiations were swift, and I purchased it for a song. The freight was more than the cost of the autoclave itself. However, it was an opportunity I couldn't miss. And so I booked a hauler to transport the autoclave from Washington State to Massachusetts. It was a long trip and a lot of anticipation as we waited for it. But finally, delivery day arrived. The local crane service is pulling down the driveway, and the truck driver had been waiting pretty antsy all morning. And I was worried because although we hadn't flooded on our farm in the rains that saturated the valley the previous week, the road was still really muddy, and the place where we had to put the crane was quite muddy. I had been refreshing the weather app on my phone all morning, just watching these little pink blips on the radar to make sure that they didn't materialize into anything larger to worry about. And so just as we got the crane in place, the skies opened and a deluge commenced. Still, the little pink blips weren't that sizable, but the storm was just intense, and it seemed to be hovering directly over our farm. The rain came down in sheets. It wasn't just raindrops, it was a deluge, and there was white water coming down the hill from the west. The crane crew, despite being a gritty, die-hard bunch, they were grounded and crouched, waiting out the storm. The crane was crouched like them, with its boom lowered to lower the risk of lightning strike. And so we're just waiting out this rain, and while we wait out the storm, I make rounds. It's a Friday on the farm, and Fridays are always a big push to wrap up the week. And I just keep refreshing that weather app. For a couple hours, the rain just keeps coming down until finally the storm broke. And so quickly, with everybody ready to be done, the autoclave is belted into its rigging and lifted into the sky. And I slog around the back of the farm to make sure the place that we had prepared for the autoclave is ready to put it down. And I look up and see my crew pushing a wall of water out of the building, armed with brooms and squeegees. They're parting the waters, and I grimace. Just the previous week, I was talking to a farmer friend and telling them, we're high and dry, we don't flood here. But I didn't have time to think about that right now. I have thousands of dollars worth of equipment hovering over my building. And so confident that my crew is dealing with the floodwaters, I go back outside to, with my eye on the sky, to this piece of equipment over the building. And then again, the lightning cracks. I look at those blips. They're still on the phone. It's still not a big storm, but they seem to be regenerating right over the farm. And with that crack of lightning, the crane operator didn't hesitate to move the crane over and down. The first half of the autoclave was put on skates just inside the building. And our tractor moved forward to push the autoclave in. And in this moment of truth, the tractor moves up and, well, it just kind of teetered there. Our resident tractor whisperer urged it to push 3 tons of steel ahead, and I could see the back wheels lifting off the ground and realize it needs a counterweight. So I didn't hesitate to jump on board. And then my cousin Jan jumped on next to me, and finally John on the sideboard gave us the traction we needed to get this autoclave moved in. And another crack of lightning, and Jan and I look at each other, realizing this might be the last stupid thing we do together. But finally, the tractor lurched forward, and we pushed that autoclave in, and we put it crudely down on blocks so the crane could unhook and move away. And once the autoclave is down, I only have a minute to just take a quick breath, because I have to turn my attention to the flooding. While our eyes were on the sky, our building had filled with water. The storm water had moved all kinds of debris around, blocking the drainage, and water was building up on the outside of the building. Miraculously, we were able to get the water down and out. It flooded not only the warehouse, but the inner sterile lab. See, the greenhouses are made to get wet, and water isn't a big problem there. But this is the lab. This is the sterile place where we get our mushrooms started. We put all hands on deck, and we got that water out. We put fans in place to dry things out, and we were able to avoid any major damages. And looking back at the day, while the autoclave delivery was really a feat, what sits with me most was the sight of my crew parting the waters. They had my back. And that was just like how I saw this community rally in support of the farms that flooded last summer. And that is a really powerful thing when your friends, your family, and your community are there and doing what's needed without being asked. And so while this was an experience in the unpredictable nature of nature and how the best laid plans of a farmer can basically collide with nature in all kinds of interesting ways. And I feel like this is a call of action to us all. For me, it means practical investments in things on my farm, like gutters and drainage ditches. For our community, it means investing in the farmers that are stewards of the land here, that provides environmental services for future generations. And the best thing about supporting local farms is that we get to eat some of the best food in the world grown right here in Western Mass. Thank you.